Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. July 22nd, 2024, in Hillsborough, North Carolina, New Goloka. We're going to be reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 53, Text 15. Mada chudbir gajani kai Sandanar hema malibhi Patyasva sankulai sainyai Parita kundinam yayo. Mada, liquid secreted from the forehead. Chudbihi, exuding. Gaja, of elephants. Anikai, with hordes. Sandanai, with chariots. Hema, golden. Malibihi, decorated with garlands. Pati, with foot soldiers. Ashva, and horses. Sankulai, crowded. Sainyai, by armies. Paritaha, accompanied. Kundinam, to Kundina, Bhishmaka's capital. Yayao, he went. So this is again with the Rukmini's wedding. BBT translation, King Dhammagosh. King Dhammagosh is the father of whom? Shishupal, yes. King Dhammaghosha traveled to Kundina. And where is Kundina? Kundina is, what is it? Yes, Rukmini's family lives there. Excellent. Accompanied by armies of elephants exuding mada, chariots hung with golden chains, and numerous cavalry and infantry soldiers. So there's no BBT purport. We're going to read Krishna book. Dhammagosh, this is Srila Prabhupada from Krishna book. Dhammagosh, Shishupal's father, executed all kinds of ritualistic performances to invoke good fortune for his son. So that's from the previous verse. Shishupal's father was known as Dhammagosh due to his superior ability to cut down unregulated citizens. Dhamma means curbing down, and Ghosh means famous. So he was famous for controlling the citizens. Dhammagosh thought that if Krishna came to disturb the marriage ceremony, he would certainly cut him down with his military power. Is he the first one to think like that? Therefore, after performing the various auspicious ceremonies, Dhammagosh gathered his military divisions. He took many elephants garlanded with golden necklaces. So this differs. The BBT translation is saying it was the chariots that were decorated. Srila Prabhupada is saying the elephants were decorated. And many similarly decorated chariots, so he's saying the elephants and the chariots, and horses. It appears that Dhammagosh, along with his son and other companions, was going to Kundina not exactly to get Shishupal married, but mainly to fight. Okay? And so we're going to look at commentaries by our acharyas. So first we'll look at Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who his commentary is liquid mada dripped from the foreheads of the elephants in procession. And that's the main thing we're going to be talking about today. And Srila Sanatana Goswami says, the father is further described, he traveled with many elephants. And Srila Jiva Goswami says, though the father was a different person from the son, the description of his preparations for the wedding is given to show that even his actions, not only his son's, were useless. The subject, King of Chedi, of the sentence is from the previous verse. Mada chudbir gajani kai, shandanair hema malibihi, patyesva sankulai sanya, parita kundinam yayo. King Dhamaghosh traveled to Kundina, accompanied by armies of elephants exuding mada, chariots hung with golden chains, and numerous cavalry and infantry soldiers. So I'm going to just talk about the first line of this verse. Mada chudbir gajan ikai. So elephants that had mada coming out of their foreheads. So these were the elephants he brought. So this liquid coming out of the forehead of elephants, elephants have a special gland in their forehead that can secrete liquid. And normally it secretes a very, very small amount that they use as a scent marker. Like they'll rub up against trees and mark their territory, but that's not very noticeable. If you're noticing, if you look at an elephant and you notice this liquid dripping down from their forehead, then number one, they are most likely a bull elephant. So the Asian elephants, although the females still have this gland, it doesn't secrete any liquid. It's vestigial. It doesn't have any function. In the African elephants, sometimes the female's gland will also secrete some liquid. And the elephants secrete this liquid when they are in great distress or when they are very excited. But the main time the elephants secrete this liquid is when the bulls are in must, M-U-S-T-H. So elephants are, as far as I know from what I've looked up, unique in the mammal kingdom, that generally among mammals, females go into periods of fertility, the estrus cycle, but males do not. Males have a stable fertility and a stable sex drive. But with elephants, it's not like that. The male elephant, although he can procreate at any time, goes into periods of heightened arousal called must. Usually happens in the winter. And during this time, the testosterone of the elephant increases by 60 to 140 times. So any of the males who are listening to this, if you could imagine if your sex drive were to increase by 60 times or up to 140 times. And these are called wild elephants or intoxicated elephants or maddened elephants. Now, generally, if you have elephants that are trained and used by human beings, not wild elephants out in the jungle, and these elephants that Dhamaghosh is using obviously are trained. He's not just pulling wild elephants. So generally, when the bull elephants are in must, nobody uses them. They're too crazy. You can't use them, friend. They're extremely dangerous. Elephants in must will kill their trainer. Normally elephants are very kind to those who've been kind to them, but a bull elephant in must is completely uncontrollable. What traditional societies do that still use elephants for work is as soon as they notice these first signs of an elephant going into must, they will starve it. They'll give it no food and water for 3 days, and then that makes the must last only for a week instead of for a month or so. In modern situations like zoos and circuses, if a bull elephant goes into must, they will put it into a specially designed enclosure that's super reinforced, so the elephant won't cause any damage. And if you wonder why they don't simply castrate bull elephants like we do with horses and cows, bull cows, it's because the elephant's reproductive system is up inside their body, and it's a major operation to castrate a bull elephant, and therefore it's practically never done. So here we see that now you know a little bit of whenever the Shastra talks about mad elephants, intoxicated elephants, they're talking about bull elephants in must. And here it's very clear because it says that this liquid is coming out of their forehead. So there's absolutely no question about what kind of elephants these are. So we're going to look at these mad elephants from both a negative and a positive way. We're going to look at mad elephants in terms of specifically today's verse with Dhamaghosh. And then we're going to look at mad elephants in a general way in terms of aparad, because aparad is often compared to mad elephants. And then we're going to look at mad elephants in a positive way, talking about Lord Balaram, Lord Nityananda, and Lord Krishna. and then finally in regard to Bilva Thakur and Lord Chaitanya. So this Dhamma-ghosh, the fact that he's coming with elephants in must is fascinating on many levels. First of all, it means that in those days, a powerful Kshatriya king was able to control such elephants and use them in service. That's practically inconceivable. It's just practically inconceivable that anybody could control one mad elephant, what to speak of a whole army of mad elephants. I mean, nobody today knows how to do that, even with one elephant. So this is indicative of this man's incredible power. And that's significant because, as we already read, Krishna came alone. Of course, Balaram later comes with his army. But Krishna came alone, and Krishna's coming alone to fight this army that has so many completely wild elephants. That, as again, nobody would even face one of these. Actually, it's interesting that Jarasandhar in 1070-29 is described as having the power of 10,000 wild elephants, mad elephants. So again, we read that many of the Kshatriyas, they'll be described, they have the power of 1,000 elephants, or they have the power of 10,000 elephants. But then to have the power of 10,000 elephants in must, again, remember that an elephant in must has 60 to 140 times their normal power and strength and aggression. So to be able to have the power that's compared to that, these were extremely powerful persons. I think it's hard for us at the present time to understand that there were human beings walking around on the planet thousands of years ago that had this kind of power. We also read with Narakasura in 1059-14 that when Narakasura, who of course is Krishna's own son, born when Varaha impregnated Bhumi, that when Krishna and Satyabhama came to Naraka's enclosure, where Krishna rescued the 16,100 princesses, this is really interesting. Narakasura was attacking Krishna also with bull elephants and must, but these were the elephants that had come out of the milk ocean. So do you remember when the milk ocean was churned? Right? Indra's elephant, Airavata, came out of the milk ocean. There was Ucheshvava, the horse that came out of the milk ocean. And also there were many other elephants that came out of the milk ocean. And Narakasura was using these elephants, which we can, of course, assume that these elephants were far more powerful and amazing than ordinary elephants. And then he was using these elephants while they were in must to attack Krishna and Satyabhama. And then, of course, Krishna, again, was alone, and even Balaram didn't come with his army, and Krishna was able to defeat this army. So it's interesting that in an indirect way, these descriptions of the great power and potency of these enemies of the Lord serves not so much to glorify them, but to glorify the Lord. Does everybody understand this? Yes? Just like Srila Prabhupada has this. So you might wonder, why is this description here in the Bhagavatam? Why is Sukadeva Goswami telling us that Dhamma-ghosh is coming with all these must bull elephants? Because this so much more enhances the glorification and appreciation of Krishna. Thinking about how Lord Ramachandra defeated 14,000 Rakshasa soldiers by himself, how he held up Govardhan Hill as a little boy with his little finger to defeat the power of Indra. So this is the power of Krishna. It doesn't matter how much material power you amass against him. It's insignificant, right? You can bring everything. You can bring power that's inconceivable against the Lord, and it doesn't, or in the womb protecting Parikshit from the Brahmastra. It has no effect on the Lord. It'll be explained like, showers on a mountain or a flower hitting an elephant. It doesn't have any effect. So we want to look at this now in terms of offenses. And of course, Dhamma-ghosh here, you could say, is personifying offenses. He's acting very much in the Ravana mood of wanting to take away the Lord's consort. I mean, in this case for his son, but it's a similar mood. You know, I want to take Sita from Ram for myself. I want to take Rukmini from Krishna for my son. I want Rukmini to be gracing my family. And this is, we could say, the root of the offensive mentality. It's the root of why we're in the material world as conditioned souls, is that I want to take the position of Purusha, and I want to enjoy Prakriti. And, you know, the word for offense is what? Aparada, against Radha. So it literally means like that. That I want Radha for myself. I want Lakshmi for myself. I want Rukmini for myself. I am opposed to the very nature of Srimati Radharani. I am opposed to the very nature of Srimati Rukmini Devi and Srimati Lakshmi Devi, which is that they are completely devoted to the Lord. As Rukmini has already written, she said, if I can't marry you now, then I'll just do austerities and die and keep doing austerities in so many lifetimes until I can marry you. So this concept of comparing offenses to an elephant in must, of course, it's given many times. It's given especially by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Madhya Lila 19:15-6. That's the main place where he's comparing aparada to a maddened elephant. And Srila Prabhupada talks about this in 6.17.15 purport of the Bhagavatam, where he's talking there, this is in relationship to the cursing of Chitraketu, how that Parvati felt that Chitraketu had offended Lord Shiva, and Prabhupada talks there about offenses. So generally, the mad elephant offense is which offense? Blaspheming devotees. Although in that purport 6.17.15, Prabhupada refers to the mad elephant offense also as to disobeying the order of the spiritual master. And these elephants in must, as we say, they will kill their benefactors. They lose their normal, gentle, and compliant nature. They lose their memory. And think about what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2:62 and 63, how when we become very attached to something and we start lusting after it, then we get angry and we lose our intelligence and we lose our memory. So when a bull elephant is in must, they lose their intelligence and they lose their memory. They can no longer remember who their friends are. They will definitely kill other bull elephants. And if bull elephants see that there's a bull in must, they get out of the way. They can kill female elephants who oppose them. Occasionally they will kill calves, but only by accident in their fury. They will not intentionally kill a calf. They will destroy villages. And in the time when Mahaprabhu was giving this analogy of offenses to a maddened elephant, it was a time when people lived in proximity to wild elephants. First of all, they used elephants in the military. They used elephants for work, a lot of the way we use tractors. And they also were, close to forests where there were mad elephants. And so they had experience that some wild bull in must might enter their village and trample gardens and agricultural fields and trample houses and just destroy everything. Right? And we know even human beings, when they're angry, can do this kind of thing. Yes? I was once in the room with an angry human who punched a hole in a wall. And right, this stuff happens. People are angry, they'll tear a door off a hinge, they'll throw their mother's favorite ceramic pot and break it, or sometimes when people are very angry, they'll even kill somebody. Even they may kill someone that they normally love, and afterwards are like, what did I do? Am I correct? So what to speak of an animal? Right? So the animal it will just destroy everything. So this particular type of aparad can destroy everything. I mean, Krishna says that swalpa, a little bit of bhakti, is never destroyed. You keep building on it. Whatever you do, you keep building on it. Right? We read this all over. Whatever bhakti we do, it stays. It will follow us life after life after life. And we'll keep building on it. We'll keep growing it. But there's an exception. And the exception is if we allow a mad elephant into our garden. That's the exception. I mean, it's interesting. Srila Prabhupada writes in Nectar Devotion that if we commit an offense against Vaishnavas, we may be able to continue our bhakti in our next life, but it may be in a birth in a very low family. And I think of that and wonder about a lot of us. A lot of us. You know, did we take birth, at least some of us, did we take birth in low families because we committed some Vaishnava aparad in another life? And so we're able to continue, but we had a big disadvantage. I mean, Prabhupada does make that point. There was one disciple of Srila Prabhupada who really became very learned in Sanskrit and studying the scriptures, and he ended up having a lot of association with the Radhakund Babajis, who were very critical of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And he picked up on their mood, and he started publishing things critical of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada said to him, "You will not attain prema for 10,000 births." So this mad elephant may not destroy your chances of bhakti eternally, but it's certainly going to make it extremely difficult. Just like if you have a garden. I have in Vrinda's garden, we have these two plants that I'm probably going to totally uproot that I didn't realize were invasive. They're pretty plants, but they put runners under the ground. So even though I have landscaping film and mulch, they put runners under that, and then they come up everywhere. And it's just a matter of a few years before they will have taken over the entire garden. So with those sort of plants, even if I cut them from the top, they're going to keep growing back. You understand? So a mad elephant is like that. A mad elephant offense is going to come and trample your garden. So there may still be something underground, but there's not going to be anything visible. And it may be a long time before it grows again. And most plants, once they're fully trampled, they don't grow up again. They can't, because they need the leaves to get food. You follow? So there are some plants that if you don't pull them up by the root, they will go back. But most of them, you trample them, they're gone. So this bhakti lata, if they're trampled, it may grow up again after a long time, if there's still some root there. But it's very dangerous. So what does it mean to commit this offense? So it means, of course, first, the worst kind of offense against devotees is a corporal offense, like Madhai throwing a pot at Lord Nityananda, to actually physically harm another devotee. I mean, and this is, of course, Damagosha's mood. He wants to kill Krishna. You know, he wants to actually do physical harm to Krishna. So if we want to physically harm a devotee, we attack them physically. Right? And the next, of course, is verbally. And especially if it's blasphemy, especially if we're just repeating lies about people. You know, we hear some rumor and then we just spread it all over the place without actually checking if it's true or not. You know, yeah, and this, I find it fascinating that in the Bible, of the 7 deadly sins, the worst is to give false witness against your neighbor, to say something false about someone to get them in trouble. We were talking about this with Srivas Pandit, how there was that one member who framed him, who set up all this paraphernalia for Durga worship outside of, including wine, outside of his door to make him look bad. So to make up lies, I know one member of our movement who's no longer alive, who was doing exactly this kind of thing. He was making videos with things that he knew were lies. And I confronted him and I said, Prabhu, you know that this is a lie. You know that you're not. He says, oh, people will know that this is. Why are you spreading lies to criticize devotees? So, and then the next is mentally. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that we should feel joy upon seeing a Vaishnava. You know, even mentally criticizing. And of course, we have this example with Bhrigu Muni when he was testing Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, who was the most situated in goodness. Right? And he had these varieties of offenses. So first he had the lowest variety, a mental offense. He came before his father, Lord Brahman, he didn't offer respects. Then a verbal offense, which is the next level. He came before Lord Shiva and insulted him. And then the final level, he came before Vishnu and kicked him, which was a corporal offense. And of course, Lord Vishnu was very tolerant. whereas Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma were ready to kill him. But these are the level of offenses against devotees, and Prabhupada, of course, would say, sometimes when he was talking about the 10 offenses against the holy name when he would give initiation, was saying not offending devotees means don't offend people in other religions who are devotees. He would give the example of Jesus and Muhammad. That don't criticize even if somebody is in another. I was just hearing Prabhupada say that actually this morning. That, each different faith has somewhat different rituals, but that's not what's important. And Prabhupada was saying, the Bhagavatam is very liberal. He said the Bhagavatam is saying that what is the highest religion? That the highest religion is one who loves God. It doesn't matter in what faith one is loving God. So those who love Krishna should love everyone who loves Krishna. Of course, we shouldn't blaspheme any living entity. We should be kind to all living entities. The great devotees, the Uttama Adhikaris, they see everyone as a devotee. But what to speak of someone who has dedicated their lives to the Lord? Now, does this mean that we should be, cultish and crazy and that we never bring out any actual problem? No, Prabhupada says to call a thief is not blasphemy. So if actually someone is a thief and a rapist and a murderer, even if externally they appear to be a devotee or they have some devotional attribute, still one can be direct about that. I mean, we have, of course, even those who are really, really devotees, we have the example of Junior Haridas, that Junior Haridas was really, really a devotee. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't accept that although he was a renunciate, that he was having lustful thoughts about women. And Lord Chaitanya was very happy when Junior Haridas committed suicide. Not that we should commit suicide if we have lusty thoughts, but Mahaprabhu was actually happy with that rectification. So if someone's a devotee and they've actually done some criminal activity, that's another category. They should definitely be rectified. Prabhupada said if someone's beating the children, if the Gurukul teachers are beating the children, they should be hanged. I mean, it's not that we just say, oh, they're chanting Hare Krishna if they want to murder people and rape children, and that's cool. No, that's not the situation. But even then, we shouldn't hate anybody. This is extremely important. Maharaj Parikshit, when he's talking to Dharma the bull, and Dharma the bull says, if you name the perpetrator, you're as bad as the perpetrator. If we're filled with hate for people who do things that are wrong, then we're filled with the same kind of hate and envy. All right, let's look at positive. Is there a positive side to mad elephants? And the answer is yes. There's a positive side to mad elephants. So we have Balaram is compared to an elephant in must in 10:15:28, when he enters into the Talavan forest and he's shaking the trees. Right? So you remember that Krishna and Balaram go into the Talavan forest when the cowherd boys ask them to go, and then they're shaking the trees. Now, bull elephants in must do that. They'll uproot trees with their tusks. They'll shake trees. They basically cause havoc. And so Balaram looked just like a bull elephant in must shaking these trees in the Talavan forest. And again, these analogies are there because the time the Bhagavatam is given, people were they saw this. It was part of their environment, just like we see barking dogs, right? And around here we see skunks and we see cats, and this is part of our environment. So wild elephants was part of their environment. Oh, it's just like a wild elephant. Oh yeah, okay, I know what that is. Krishna is described as similar to a wild elephant in 10:33:24, and this is when Krishna's walking with the gopis on the bank of the Yamuna, and it said that his gait, the way he was walking, his mood was like that of an elephant in must. It actually specifically says, like today's verse, that he looked like an elephant that had this liquid dripping from his forehead as he was walking with his many gopis, just like an elephant in must is going to have many female elephants who are very attracted to him. And Lord Nityananda is also compared that his walking was like an elephant in must. That's CC Adi 5, 187. So Krishna's walking is often compared to an elephant. Usually it's compared to a baby elephant. So usually Krishna's gait is compared to that of a baby elephant. But in this case, it's being compared to a wild elephant. So Krishna is a sylvan god. He's a forest god. He has a wild nature to him. I mean, when the Lord is in Vaikuntha, he's much more standing straight, and he's much more, the Lord Ramachandra, or even Krishna in Dwarka. But Krishna in Vrindavan, he goes out in the forest, especially in his night pastimes, and he's wild. He's dancing with women who are at least externally, ostensibly married to other people, which is the worst kind of adultery. And they have their wine drinking festivals. I mean, they're wild, and they're running in the middle of the dark forests. So this is Krishna, the Dira Lalita, the party boy, and I really appreciate that our Gaudiya Vaishnavas especially have this ultimate view of God, as opposed to practically all the religions of the world. And finally, a positive view of wild elephants is in regard to ecstasy. So in the Nectar Devotion, chapter 18, I didn't have time to look up the corresponding thing in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bilva Mangala Thakur talks about his ecstasies in devotional service being like an elephant in must within him, being just like this. His ecstasies were just wild within him. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is compared like this in CC Madhya 264. That it's like not only one, but a whole herd of wild elephants. I mean, that's another thing about Dhamma-Ghosh. Like, one elephant in must is not going to want to be around another elephant in must. Like, they're going to fight to the death. And how he had a whole bunch of them together in his army, I don't know how he could do that. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasies were compared to that, like you have a whole bunch of bull elephants in must being in your heart and just tearing it all up with all these different competing ecstasies. So that's the kind of wildness we should have. We should have a wildness of love in our heart. That kind of madness of love that uproots all of our anarthas, that tramples all of our false ego, that just uproots and throws away our pride and arrogance and lust and envy, and is having a whole party of love for God, and then can join in his pastimes when he's walking around like a mad elephant. But we should be very, very careful of having a mad elephant of offenses and thinking that we're going to somehow, with our power of whatever, righteousness or intelligence or strength, that we're going to defeat Krishna. So I hope you enjoyed this elephant class. So if anyone has I just concentrated on the first line of the verse. So if anyone has questions, comments, corrections, chastisements. Hare Krishna is ready with the mic. No, it was a class.
Oh, I didn't see it on the TV. I don't know.
No, the screen's not working.
Okay.
It's 10:53:15, which is the next verse, so it wasn't a special topic. And the first line of that verse is Mada Chudbir Gananjikai, that there was elephants with liquids coming from their forehead. And that Dhamma-Ghosh, Shishupal's father, he's bringing this whole military phalanx to his son's wedding. He's coming to his son's wedding with this whole army, because as Prabhupada said in Krishna book, he wasn't just coming to get his son married, he was coming to fight Krishna. And among his army was a whole bevy of bull elephants in must. So. Anybody else? So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai.